Probably gonna make a bunch of noise when I go to shift around, but it is what it is. Alright, so it is, unfortunately, I mean, kind of cold. Not really that cold, but it's decently cold outside where I don't want to ride. So I'm in here hanging out with the bike because I love the bike. I love the bike so much, and I'm sad that I can't ride it. So I figured now you get to put up with me ranting about shit in the garage if I can lock my phone and see what the fuck I'm doing. Right. So I wanted to talk about just some tips, kind of tips and tricks that I've learned from the very few years that I've been riding on how to ride during the winter, because I feel like it's a topic that, like, me personally, I wish I'd see more people talking about. Because I mean, there's occasional riders that'll go out in like the snow and ride around in fun, but most of the time it's dirt bikes. I don't really see it happen that often on like sport bikes and stuff, which I mean, I'm not gonna take that out in the snow. That thing's tires are shot. And that's one of the tips that I want to go over, is why I wouldn't recommend riding a bike like this in the snow, but we'll get to that. It's cold, so I got something to warm me up, and that's why there's no keys in the bikes, I think. Oh yeah, there's no keys. Aha, I was smart. I already started drinking, so I already hid the keys from myself so I couldn't go out and start drinking and riding. I like to plan ahead like that. And I even gave myself a little straw so I can just... I can take my shots through the straw. Okay. Before I do any more of that, let's see what my first talking point was. Okay, so number one thing is be comfortable on the bike you're riding. So, me personally, like I said before, I would not ride something like this in the snow. I have done that before on an old 600 I had. Not fun, not very fun. Biggest reason for that is just because of the seating position. You're in such a tucked forward state that, like, you're relying on a lot more of your body core strength to kind of position yourself on the bike, which is why I personally prefer to ride my dual sport more so in the colder months, because I'm in more of an upright seating position, so I'm not really focused on keeping myself upright and like using my legs to hug onto the tank and keep weight off my wrists. I can kind of just sit on the bike and comfortably sit there and freeze my ass off. Versus something like this, I'd be worrying about like my riding position and shaking so badly that I can't focus on that. So that's one of the biggest tips, is if you want to ride during the winter, make sure you're doing it on something that you're confident in riding. So something, I'd say, more upright position, like a cruiser, Honda Grom, a dual sport, a naked bike. Anything that doesn't really require you to put in the effort to keep yourself in a rider position. Tip number two is layers are very important. So normally when I go out in weather, anything under like 45 degrees, I start layering. So for me personally, that's usually like, I'll use like just cheap pajama bottoms as the base layer. Like, cause you know, I have one set of thermals, but I don't always, usually I wash it and then I lose it and then I don't find it for like 3 weeks. So just like simple pajama pants and just like a t-shirt is my base layer. Then I put on something like this where I have like the Adidas track pants, or just any kind of like middle layer kind of clothing that's just going to give you an extra little set of like warmth. And then on top of my t-shirt will go my windbreaker. Like, and if you don't have a windbreaker, I would definitely advise in like investing in a good high quality windbreaker, something that's just going to be not like fancy or anything, but just something that's enough to like be a buffer between you and the wind. After the windbreaker, then goes my hoodie. I always keep a hoodie with me because they're just easy to throw on. They're small, so I can have it in my backpack if it gets too hot. I can put it on when I need it. And then the final layer will be your shell layer, which you've seen in my last video I did, was I had the overall, whatever fucking, what are those called? Is it gator? I don't remember what it is, but it's some kind of like, oh, Gorka. It's Gorka like pants, which is just like weather resistant, so it keeps water out. Very nice. I've ridden in like snow and rain in those and I haven't had an issue. And then just any kind of shell layer. So that's what you want your outer layer to be, is it's just like to keep the elements out. All your warmth, you want it on the inside, where like closer to your core, because if you can keep your torso and like your core warm, you're not going to be suffering. Your limbs are like the next thing you have to worry about because all your heat's going to escape through those. But if you can keep your like torso and your core warm, you're going to be a lot nicer riding versus like shivering to death. Number 3, heated gear is nice, but it's not necessarily required. So like I talked about just now, layering is going to be your best friend. So if you have a good layering system that keeps your core warm, you don't necessarily need to worry about heated gear. Heated gear is nice to have, but I would say it's only really required once you start getting down into like really low temperatures. Once you start getting into those lower temperatures, that's where heated gear starts to get really nice, because then your body's not working overtime to keep you warm, and it's more so the bike and the battery. That's why on my DRZ, I have the heated grips, because my hands are the things that get coldest the fastest, like my fingers and my hands. So I always like to have just heated grips on the DRZ. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. You saw, and I could probably put it up over here somewhere or something. They are just like the cheapest bicycle heated grips I could find that I could strap on there and then hook it into the battery. But they work, because now my body's not putting in the extra energy to heat my fingers up. I could just have my hands on the handlebars and my fingers still function because they're warm from on the heated bars. Other things I could recommend is, if you can't do heated grips through your bike connected to the battery, go on like Amazon or eBay and find some like battery operated gloves. There's a bunch of those now where you have like a battery cell in the glove itself that heats your hands up, and then you can take them out and charge them, or you can tether them into a full system that plugs into the bike. I've seen stuff like that, but what I have works perfectly fine for me. Ooh, oh, don't mind if I do. This is a disclaimer. I do not advocate for drinking and riding. This is the whole reason why I said I threw my keys away somewhere. And that's a future me problem now. Sober me is going to have to go find those, because drinking and riding is very bad. Anyways, what was I on? 1, 2, 4. So number 4 is having good tires. And this is going to go back to why in the beginning of the video I said I don't like riding this in the winter. In the winter, if we get good days where, like, you know, it's warm, 45 degrees, 50 degrees Celsius, Fahrenheit, oh god, 50 degrees Celsius, oh man. That sounds like a fun time. But I'll ride this in fair weather conditions, because the tires on this thing are absolutely shit. They are shot. I bought the bike like that, and I just haven't taken the time to actually put good tires on it, so oh well. But that's the whole reason I don't ride that in any kind of bad conditions. I rode it in the rain, and that is enough. That is as far as I'll do, because that was terrifying. The rear wheel spins all the time and the front locks. So that's why Number 4 is good tires are going to save you in adverse conditions. And that's the whole reason why I personally like riding a dual sport in the winter, because any time that there's snow on the roads, I know that the knobbies are going to get grip on the snow, whereas street tires are going to slide across snow, but that's only in snow. Any other condition, I just have more experience riding dual sports on the road than I do with the street tires, so I'm more comfortable riding a dual sport in the rain and snow versus street tires. And then that just goes back to my other point of being comfortable on the bike you ride. You want to be confident that you know how the bike's going to handle no matter what conditions. So if you're more comfortable on a bike like this and you know that it's going to have less grip and you acknowledge those risks, then by all means go ahead and try it. But I personally think it's safer to ride something like a dual sport, because the off-road tires are going to do a much better job in the snow and the rain sometimes, but I don't know. I think rain tires would be your best bet. Better yet, if it's legal, put fucking studded tires on and then you're gripping through anything. And then that's a good point that leads into my number 5 is understand your limits. And that comes down to every rider personally. If you've been riding for like 10, 15 years, you're going to be much better off to ride in winter conditions than someone who just started 3 months ago in the fall and now it's winter. I have not been riding that long, but I've been stupid, and when I got my license, it was in October, so then I rode through the winter of that season, and then every year after that, I've sold my bikes in the spring and bought a new one in the tail end of summer. I have more experience riding in winter and fall conditions than I do riding in summer conditions, and that's just because of how I've always sold the bike in spring and bought a new one in end of summer. But for someone that's rode in mostly summertime, I'm not telling you not to ride your bike, and that's a personal choice. You can go out there and put your bike away for the winter if you choose to do that, or you can have the practice in riding in lower grip conditions, but just acknowledge that you need to take it easy and that there's more risks to riding in worse weather. So if you get the chance, try riding in more conditions than what you're comfortable in, but in controlled situations, if you understand what I'm saying. So don't go out like in a rainstorm and just go like, oh, I'm gonna figure it out. But say like it just rained and the roads are a little bit wet, go out like around your neighborhood or go out and around the block and just see how it feels and see if you're confident with that, and then work your way up from there. Because that's what I did, is I just kind of kept riding as the conditions worsened, and then I hit a point where it's like, okay, I can't do this anymore, this is beyond what I know, and then you call it there. It's better to call it preemptively and like quote unquote pussy out than it is to go into a crash and be like, I regret that now. Because trust me, I've crashed constantly. I've crashed so many times. Almost every bike I've owned, including this one, has been crashed because I pushed it too hard or I went out beyond what I was used to. It taught me something, but it's not something I would recommend everyone go out and crash their bike. It's not something fun. If you can own a bike and not crash it, that's honestly better. But for me personally, I learned more from crashing the bike. So yeah, I guess those are kind of, let me double check. I guess those are kind of some winter tips. I can, turn my phone off. How do you use a phone? I don't know. I'm gonna lock myself out. Yeah, that's kind of like the simple tips I have right now off the top of my head. I can't really think of any more. I can think about drinking more, but I guess if you have any other questions or if you have any inputs that you can give to kind of help new riders out, go ahead and leave them in the comments. I honestly don't have anything else to say, so thank you for joining me in my I guess, joining me in this garage as I rant about nonsense. Yeah, thanks. See you later. Cheers.